This animal could almost be considered one of nature's dead ends. It could barely see, barely hear, and indeed it could barely move. Yes, it's a sloth. The three-toed sloth is an animal native to both Central and South America, and is found in rainforest areas ranging from Nicaragua in the north and as far south as southern Brazil. It's very well deserving of its name. The sloth spends most of its time in the canopy of trees, just sleeping and eating leaves. These leaves are so low in nutrients that sloths end up spending most of their time just digesting them. The most a sloth will usually move is when it comes down from its tree once a week for a poo. The only time you're likely to see a sloth moving out of its tree, or anything other than that, is during mating season when the males go off in search of females, or if they've been somehow disturbed from their homes. Sloths have a very limited diet. If a sloth is born in one particular species of tree, then it will only ever live in that specific species of tree and only ever eat the leaves of that same species of tree. However, its neighbour, born in a different species of tree, will only ever eat that species of tree, even if they're the same species of sloth. So this means you can often get multiple sloths living within the same small area, but because they feed on different trees, they don't compete for food. Sloths are unique in the mammal world for their green colour, or they would be if they were actually green. But you'd be forgiven for thinking that they were if you looked at them during the rainy season. Sloths have a peculiar mutualistic relationship with certain species of algae that grow on the follicles of their fur, because yes, they move that slowly. This gives them a greenish colour in the wet season, when the algae is most active. It provides the sloth with camouflage against the forest canopy, and some recent studies have shown that it may even act as a dietary supplement, providing extra protein and nutrients to the sloth that it wouldn't get from its leafy diet. But imagine that though, growing food in your own hair. I had a friend who once had some pretty nasty dreadlocks, but I don't think they could have sustained him for long. The sloth's fur is in fact its own mini ecosystem, and it supports several species of insect, most notably the sloth moth, which is only found in the fur of a sloth. For a long time people were unsure as to the exact nature of this relationship, but a recent study may have found the answer. It looked at why the sloth would put itself at risk of predation to come down to the forest floor to poo. It's a very vulnerable position to be in. But this study found that when the sloth reached the ground, the moths living in its fur would actually leave the fur and lay their eggs in the sloth's droppings. The adult moths then return to the sloth's fur where they live, die, and eventually decompose. These dead moths then go on to feed the algae. So, by defecating on the ground, the sloth fuels the life cycle of the moth, which in turn feeds the algae in its fur, which helps feed and hide the sloth. It's mutualism at work. Yes, sloths take the whole eat local thing to the extreme. Three-toed sloths are listed as being of least concern by the IUCN. However, they're still at risk from habitat destruction and the encroachment of human civilization. Nonetheless, they're still pretty common throughout the rainforests of Central and South America, and if you spend enough time there, you don't have to be quick to catch a glimpse of one of these most laid-back, yet remarkable animals in nature.